It's going live there. See, hi Facebook, one sec, bear with us.
Hello, everybody.
Going live on all the places. This is gonna have a little bit of a lean, but I don't know why it has a lean. That's okay.
Just be like this the whole time. Hi.
Yeah, I think we're good. We're good. Don't want to bash you here. Okay. Oh, we didn't pray. We can pray on the live again. That's okay. We like including you guys in our prayer time. Would you pray us in here, Billy?
Dear Lord, we just come before your throne of grace and mercy. And once again, we thank you for an opportunity to come and do this live and have real conversation, Lord. We ask, Lord, that you lead this podcast. Let our words be your words, Lord. Let your light shine through us. And let everybody know that no matter what, we love each other.
Yes.
And this is about just connecting and understanding one another.
Yes,
in
Lord.
your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Do you want to start us off? Yeah.
Yes.
You
So
guys.
this is a little bit deeper conversation for us, especially with the election season and the things that we've been hearing, because it's a lot of hearsay for us and a lot of people, but these are topics that we have actually been through.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we have a little bit more of a knowledge of what's going on.
For sure.
And not just medical jargon.
Right.
You know?
Or just out of passion or whatever.
Yeah. So my main thing is, I think I mentioned last week, our first podcast, I was pretty fired up.
Yes.
Just from a post from somebody and they were talking about how miscarriage was the same thing as an abortion, and that is not the truth. That is not even close to the same at all. And because it's so important for us to get facts, I actually went to abortionclinics.com, because again, we need to know what the other side is saying, and important, because there's going to be things that we can find a middle ground on. That's super important for us.
Absolutely.
That you guys know that we do want to find the middle ground for everything that we're talking about. So according to them, the definition is an abortion refers to a purposeful ending of a pregnancy through a medical and surgical means, depending on the stage of gestation and the individual health. Themes. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting.
That's always hard when you can't read your own. I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, okay.
And then, according to them, a miscarriage, also known as a spontaneous abortion, are natural pregnancy loss that occurs before the 20th week of gestation. It happens without being induced by other artificial means, but occurs naturally for different reasons. And it also said, I read, I believe it was this one or was another thing that I pulled up, but they said after 20 weeks of a miscarriage is actually considered a stillborn. And I didn't honestly, I didn't know that that's what they considered that.
Yeah.
And the principal differences is abortion is purposefully done under medical supervision. Miscarriage is accidental and unforced natural occurrence events taking place during the gestation period. So that's according to the abortion clinics.
Wow.
Not just what you've been hearing.
Right.
Out of the gate of, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And
even their definition corrects it. Yeah.
Right. And then we both can talk on this a little bit. I also, because of this, the other thing was people says, oh, I had the abortion because I miscarried because I had a DNC. And that's not the same either. A DNC is the same type of procedure. It just depends on when you had that DNC. So I was at mother.ly, and it's a quote by Dr. Borkman. I hope I'm saying that right.
Most likely not with us anymore. Maybe I don't know if it's correct.
Right?
Go on.
A DNC, a procedure used to evacuate or empty out a uterus. If the DNC is done when there is a fetal cardiac activity, you are effectively ending a pregnancy, thus is an abortion. If you are evacuation of a miscarriage or lost pregnancy, that is a DNC for a miscarriage. So there are definitely two different things. And I was telling Emily earlier, when I was reading this, I was getting mad.
Doing the research,
just like,
it's like,
gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, because they're saying that you shouldn't say that there is a heartbeat at the beginning of pregnancy.
Yeah. Tell them what they said you have to define it as.
Yes, you have to define it as fetal cardiac.
So it's not dehumanizing the term.
Yeah.
We know it's a heartbeat, but you can't, just like they don't like to call it a baby, they want to call it a fetus, which removes that emotional side. But anyways, go on. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so it's fetal cardiac. I mean, there's movement because it's still forming. Now, if it wasn't forming, there wouldn't be movement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, if it wasn't something alive.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can hear my grandsons in the
yeah, we have a guest with us, 2 guests actually.
And I saw his heartbeat on the ultrasound. It was fluttering, and I don't know if anybody ever just goes to the doctor's office, but they always say there's the heartbeat.
Yeah.
There's the heartbeat. You know. So
not fetal activity.
Even
again, it's the scientific term, the medical terminology, the sterile. They're sterilizing it,
exactly.
Anyways.
But what is cardiac?
Don't get me worked up. Don't get us started. But
but what is a cardiac? It's your heart.
Yeah.
And it's
the Latin term for your heart.
But it's fetal. And what's a fetal?
Yeah, a baby. Yeah.
But all of a sudden you can say fetal cardiac, but you can't say heartbeat.
Baby heartbeat. Even though it's the same thing, different terminology.
Yeah. But that's just how.
Wow.
That's how they misrepresent.
Wow.
What they're trying to do and accomplish here.
Wow.
And I had a miscarriage. I personally didn't have to have a DNC. They gave me some medication that. Sorry for you graphic people. So I had an applicator that I had to insert, and then flushed out the my baby that I had lost. So I didn't have to do a DNC, but that's something you can speak on.
Yeah, I did end up having a DNC, especially, and mine was not, so didn't have an abortion. My son, this is the twins' birth. So when Gabe, my son, who wasn't viable, I delivered him at 33 weeks, and then he passed away. So different experience when my twins were born. So my twins are 15 now, but when they were born, I hemorrhaged a week after. Moms usually stay in the hospital. I had a C-section with my twins, and they keep you for, in recovery and keep an eye on you for a day or two. After a C-section, I think it was just 24 hours. And a week later, I almost hemorrhaged to death. I ended up developing an infection, which is common, can happen post C-section. And I having multiples, and if you could see my body frame, I'm not a very big person. So I was about as wide out as I am tall. Not really, but I was very out front with my twins. And so I was so stretched out that, again, guys, if you're on here, replay viewers, I apologize for the terminology, but we are women. We're all adults here. My uterus had a hard time contracting back to like its normal size. And so between that and the fact that they think I developed an infection, I ended up hemorrhaging. So a week later, I had to go back into the hospital. It was scary. Spare you any details. I ended up staying in the hospital a week, but they had to get the bleeding to stop. They had to perform a DNC. So they went in, and how they explained it to me was they went in, did a procedure that cleans you out, that kind of vacuums you out. Sorry, this is not this is not medical terminology, but they use a tool. They use different procedures that help clean you out, stop the bleeding. And my doctor had to do it 3 times. The first time it didn't stop the bleeding at all, and so they were concerned, and they did a second time, and it barely slowed down. They were really concerned because they had me sign something that said, if we have to perform a hysterectomy to save your life, is that okay? So I ended up signing that. Anyways, long story short, the third time they did it, it stopped the bleeding, and so the DNC worked for me. So there wasn't any remains left in me or anything baby-wise, because my twins were delivered alive. But that was a procedure, that same kind of procedure, different situation, that they want to argue that you have to have abortion to be legal. I would not have been able to have a DNC, which is not true, because that was a life-saving procedure for me personally, Billy after miscarriage as well. And then there is a DNC that is part of an abortion procedure, but again, in the life-saving manner, that's always available to women, even if abortion in the states where abortions say outruled, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe legal. So yes, so I can speak to that, and I'm thankful for that. It saved my life. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and another thing that was upsetting to me, or more heartbreaking than anything, there are so many women who suffer from miscarriage.
Yeah.
Some, unfortunately, some 3, 4, 5 miscarriages, and they're trying so desperately to have a baby, and then being told that it's an abortion, and to be lumped into such a controversial topic is not right.
No,
it's horrible,
misleading,
right? And we've heard so many women, even the stars who talk about their miscarriages,
shout their abortion, or too. Yeah.
They do shout the abortions, but those that talk about their miscarriages too, like, how sad and depressed they were, because they lost their baby. And imagine, it offends me, personally.
It's offensive. It is offensive. That's exactly the right phrase.
Yeah,
it's offensive.
And they just assume that they can just lump it all into one category and say it's women's health. And it's not.
No. And not to scare women too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Scare young girls or young women, teenagers, into thinking you have to have the right to have an abortion in all 50 states or across the board or nationally, And if you don't, if you have a miscarriage, if you have an ectopic pregnancy, if you have a complication post-pregnancy like me, that you can't have a DNC because abortion is banned. That's not true at all. Yeah. As you can hear, we have Clayton. We have our pal Clayton over here with us. If you need to grab him, he's okay.
Let's see if he needs me.
Yeah, no problem. So it's misleading, it's deceiving, it's a fear, scare tactic. Do you want to join us? Okay, you okay? It's a fear/scare tactic. This is it okay to say his name?
Yes.
I said his name earlier. I should have asked you.
It's okay.
This is Clayton.
Clayton. His mama, my daughter, knows that he's probably going to be on here today, and she also was like, well, look, he was an unplanned pregnancy, and I still had him.
Woo-hoo.
He's such a little chunker.
He is.
But
miraculous.
He's super amazing.
He
and
is.
Such a good baby. I mean, he was crying, but
he's a normal, healthy baby.
Really good baby.
He's awesome. But anyways, we that's where the Glorify Project wants to come in. We're in a political season, as Billy already said. We have the election in less than a week. And if you haven't voted, we're hoping to encourage you to think before you vote. We're not here to tell you who to vote for, but we are here to tell you to think before you vote and make sure you have all the real facts. And we, as the Glorify Project, and Clayton here, want to be able to share with you that you are not getting the whole story or the whole truth when you're hearing it, in the media. The media is not here to serve us, right? And not here to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help them God, right? We know that. But we in the Glorify Project, because we've lived these things, want to be able to share the facts. And that's why we felt this episode would be good to share some of those statistics. So if you know someone who's, pregnant unexpectedly and considering an abortion, or maybe you've had one and you're just needing comfort, we're here for that too. Yeah. But today we really just wanted to share some facts. This is something I wanted to share real quickly. If we can go back and forth, is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I thought this was interesting, especially in the election season. We're hearing how some candidates, again, we're not here to name names, but there's candidates that want to impose a national abortion ban. Okay, you've heard that if you are paying to any amount of attention to the news, right? Yeah. And that is not true. There is no candidate who wants a national abortion ban because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, it put the law back in the hands of each individual state. So now at the state level, you can have a state that bans abortion, but it is not across all 50 states. Whoever becomes president, there will not be an abortion ban. It's at the state level. The thing I wanted to share, which I thought was crazy, because there are those who have said, if a certain candidate wins, that if there'll be an abortion ban, and then it's gonna make it impossible again for women's health, for women to get the care they need and to have an abortion or whatever. Did you know that when Roe v. Wade was overturned and went back to the states, there was an uptick in abortions?
I heard that too.
So in the first year of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and some states, did ban abortions, but the majority of states still allow abortion at some point. There was an additional 1 million abortions. Oh, it shows that there was an estimated 1,037,000 abortions occur. I guess maybe not an additional, but there was more than the normal year to year. In that first year post Roe v. Wade overturning, 1,037,000 babies were aborted. So I don't know what the uptick was as far as number, but the percentage it increased was by 11%.
Mm-hmm.
So when people like to say or scare or misinform and say, oh, abortions are going to be made, impossible for girls who, whatever the instance that you think you need to have an abortion, that's not true, because we know in the first year with the overturn of it that even more abortions happened, which we think is unfortunate. But we wanted to let you know that it has not been the case that abortions have diminished in the sense that scare tactic that they want to push. So I just thought that was crazy. So that was just in that first year that there was 11% increase.
And with that abortion ban, you need to listen to what both candidates are saying. Um, I'll say it. Trump has said, not just he did at the debates.
Yes.
That he is for exceptions, rape, incest, and health of the mother. He's not only said that, he said that over 20 years ago, that he is not a fan of abortion, but he still has in his mind that there should be some exceptions. So do your research.
Yeah.
Make sure you
and
know
listen
exactly.
to all sources of news. You know what I mean?
I mean, as much as like I'm reading this information, I'm reading it and it makes me upset.
Yeah.
My job, and as I think all of us, our job is to hear and see what the other side is saying.
Absolutely. I think that's the right thing to do. And as Billy said, the candidate that they've been saying will ban abortion. Trump is not going to ban abortion. We're not here necessarily to defend Trump, but we do want you to know the facts. And we're not here to, like I said, to tell you who to vote for. But we do ask that you pray about your voting, and that you vote your conscience, what's in your heart to vote. But before you even consider all that, to make sure you're hearing both sides of the story, and make sure you're checking more than one side of sources, if you will. Listen to individuals like us, or Live Action or Abby Johnson, who want to be able to share the statistics, pro-life statistics around the topic of abortion. Yeah, so I guess that's the latest stat that they have is 1,037,000 babies were aborted last year, and that was up 11% from the year before. It's unreal. A few stats that I have here, and again, it's important to know the facts. Don't just turn on the news and go, oh, well, X, Y, and Z, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever. They said this. Do your research. Go to the actual stats, like Gutemacher and the different places where they are fact-checked. And fact-checked on both sides. So this is the Pro-Life for America, Students for Life, actually, of America website, and they have all their sources cited. They had, this one I actually heard has changed. It used to be 1 in 5 pregnancies end in abortion. It's actually 1 in 4. 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in an abortion. Let's see. 1/4, of American women have had an abortion by the age of 45. This is one thing that we like to talk about, especially in an era where people want to discuss racism or white supremacy, to put it on the other side, is abortion disproportionately affects Black and Hispanic women, minorities. And we would highly recommend you watch the 1916 Project.
Oh, it's amazing.
So good, by Seth Gruber and the White Rose Movement, whatever, I think that's what it's called, the White Rose Resistance. You can go on X, it's totally free. Look up the 1916 Project, and it gives the history of Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, and how the core and the reason and the purpose behind Planned Parenthood and abortion originally was to remove the undesirables from society. That was minorities, that was those who had special needs, and just weren't capable to produce in life. And so we know statistically, factually, and historically that abortion disproportionately affects the minority, the Hispanics and Black community. Black Americans making up 13.7% of the population. The population in the United States that's African American or Black is 13.7%. Of that 13.7%, 30% of the abortions, though, in the U.S. are from Black Americans.
Yeah.
So even though it's a small, Blacks in proportion to the United States, we have 13.7% of the population is Black. But of the percentage of the United States, 30% of them have had abortions. And so that, and we know that to be true. We know Planned Parenthoods are in low income neighborhoods. They're usually near schools, and so they're in these densely populated areas on purpose.
Yep.
And so we're just trying to paint that picture. We want you to know that life matters, and that this movement is strategically placed in places to misinform, to scare, you know what I mean, and to do away with people groups, you know what I mean, at its core.
And there has to be truth to that, Margaret Sanger, because she's the one that started Planned Parenthood and got the movement going. But in 2020, when you watch the history, because she is linked to racism, and the people around her were writers that even Hitler read and took inspiration from. They no longer have her name on the building or on the street
square.
Yeah,
the Margaret Sanger Square or whatever in New York, right?
The building and the street that it was named after. All of a sudden, it's removed because the truth was coming out, and it was scared them, because then people would really realize, like, wow, all of us, all colors, all nationalities, is supporting abortion, not realizing you're supporting a genocide of minority people. It's how they trick you with their words and so-called statistics.
Absolutely. The semantics, and they play on words. So the other thing that we don't hear too much about, and we have talked about this, and we're not here, we on the opposite side are not here to want to scare you either. We just want you to know the full picture. And some of the things that we don't hear about is the risks of having an abortion. And not only the abortion pill, and I know we've been talking about, what's her name, Amber?
Yeah.
The girl who had twins, and she ended up,
I think so.
Was that her name? Who recently, Amber Thurman, right?
Yeah.
Who, even Kamala Harris, who's the other presidential candidate, has been talking about, because of abortion laws, she didn't get the help she needed. No, what happened is she took the abortion pill and had a complication, which can happen. It's not all the time, but it can happen, and she ended up hemorrhaging to death. And so, but you see a political movement that wants to say it was because of the abortion laws. It had nothing to do with the abortion laws. She had a complication due to the abortion pill. And so that's one of the dangers of prescribing these types of drugs over the internet without seeing your primary care doctor or your OBGYN, and being, monitored, being, watched. But more than that, we know, unfortunately, of devastating testimonies and stories from families where a young girl went in for an abortion, and it was a botched abortion, and either now cannot have children because they have scarring in their uterus, and so they're sterile, or unfortunately, because of a perforated uterus, bled to death. And so, and I've had friends who say, well, childbirth is dangerous, right? Women rarely, and I guess you would say the same thing of those issues, but women, can pass during childbirth too, but that also is very rare. But so people like to come from that angle too, that having children is a mostly safe situation.
Since the beginning of time.
And it's not
to diminish
yes.
women who have gone through labor and have lost their lives. Not at all. But if you're going to take statistics from do it from the beginning of time versus abortion,
yes,
the difference also with miscarriage and abortion is, with a miscarriage you are under supervision. You go to a doctor,
yes,
because you find out you're pregnant, and then they tell you, no, unfortunately, this pregnancy you're going to end up with a miscarriage for whatever reason.
Right.
But, there's care, because they want to make sure that you don't have to have a D&C.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you have an abortion, you just leave the office. There's no follow-up care. There's no double, a checking on, make sure you're okay or anything like that.
It reaches out of my ankle. Yeah, exactly.
And then there's been stories out there where people who call the clinic and say, hey, I'm having these complications, and they tell them, just go to the hospital and tell them that you had a miscarriage.
Yeah. I
mean, if an abortion's okay, then why would you want to turn around?
Hide it and cover it up.
Yeah. That's wrong.
No, absolutely agree. And so here are a few stats on some of the risks And Billy and I talk about this all the time, and we have friends who have had an abortion, and one of the women in our group in the Glorify Project can speak and would love to speak and share her story and her experience post-abortion. But here's just a few stats about even mental health and things of that nature. So an abortion heightens the risk of mental health issues. Studies show that 34% of women are more likely to develop anxiety disorders, 37% more likely to develop depression, 110%, over 110% of women, or 100% chance of likely to rely on alcohol use or abuse, and then 115% more likely to develop suicidal behavior. 220% more likely to take on marijuana use or abuse. So again, how to cope with how they feel. And so we know, we see this movement that's popular right now, whether it's in Hollywood or with influencers, and it's about shouting your abortion, and there's this pride around having an abortion. And we know, having lost a child, and then then Shauna in our group who has experienced an abortion, we know in the recesses of our heart and in our quiet moments, you wish you had that baby. And you do question the what ifs, you know what I mean, and why did that happen, and things of that nature. And so when women have made a willful decision, I had a friend in high school who's had multiple abortions, and they said they've seen kids who would be the age of her children that aren't with her, and she thinks about them like my kid would be like that kid. And so life isn't meant to be taken from you prematurely, and that without consequence.
Right.
And so those are the stats on that. The other thing I want to share really quickly, and then if you had any more stats, is the risk, again, to your physical health. Like I didn't have an abortion post my twins, and I still hemorrhaged. Again, that's something that can happen post pregnancy. But if an abortion, it says an abortion risks, if the abortion goes as planned, even just if it goes well, the risks post-abortion: heavy or persistent bleeding, damage to the cervix, abdominal pain or cramping, scarring of uterine lining. Multiple abortions can actually cause breast cancer. Remember, somebody shared that with us recently. I didn't know that statistic. Future premature births or miscarriages. And then risks if things go wrong in an abortion: infection or sepsis, placenta previa, and that's where it pulls away, right? Tears away. Perforation of the uterus, damage to other organs, and even death. And again, we don't say that to makes it scary. We just want you to know, as in anything, there's risk, and you're not going to hear that.
No.
You know what I mean? From the other side.
It's like any medication the doctor prescribes you. They'll have to give you the 10 pages of, complications that could happen, So that's all we're wanting to do, is just give you that information. And, again, please hear our hearts.
Yes.
At the end of the day, who you are is who we care about. We're just here for you.
Yeah.
Like Em said, we just want to give you the information. You're your own person. You got to do what you have to do for yourself. But if you find that that decision was not the one that you really wanted to do, and you don't feel like you could go anywhere or talk to anyone about it, we're here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're here. Billy nailed it. I don't have to say anything more to that. So, yeah, mic drop. Walk away. We love you genuinely, and the women on our team. There's 2 others, and then we have a lot of people who support what we do, who also are here to love on you and provide resources. And again, there's no judgment if you've had an abortion. We don't. Yeah. You may be somebody who knows this experience that we've just shared today, and some of these facts. Maybe you've lived this nightmare, and and we want you to know you're not alone, and that there is hope and comfort for you. And then again, if you are someone out there who's expecting right now, you have a baby on the way, and you've been weighing these options, we would love to chat with you too. And if you're not here locally in Oregon, Corvallis, Oregon, there is some resource near you, wherever you are, that if you think you might want to have the baby, or maybe deliver the baby and give the baby up for adoption, that there are options within a driving distance from where you are. There was one stat I was going to look up, and I have not been able to find it as we've been talking here, but I wanted to share how. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, just remember, you do have options.
Mm.
You know, a lot of times people don't know that they do.
Yeah.
They
that's
don't.
good.
You get into situations where a movement's a movement, and sometimes we just get caught up in that.
Yeah.
It's just natural for people to do that.
Yeah.
It's I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you just naturally gravitate to big movements that happen. And in those movements, you don't get all the information.
Absolutely.
You know, you have options. You don't have, abortion is on the table, yes. Um, Adoption, keeping the baby, resources for all situations.
Yeah.
They're there, and we just want you to also know that there is other options. You don't just have to choose one because you're aligned with one party. That doesn't mean you have to go all in with everything they say, because we support Trump, but we don't like some of the things that he says or does
1,000%.
too.
Yep.
No one's perfect except for Jesus.
That's exactly right.
So-
That's exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. And that you would align yourself with, well, for us as Christians, we align ourselves with biblical principles. And again, we're not voting for the most divine candidate.
Or preacher.
Yeah. Or are we divine people? No. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. My dad used to always say, like, man, your halo's getting crooked there, And so we're flawed individuals too. So we know that of both candidates. But we just, again, we're voting in line by policy and biblical principle, and who lines up the most, and who's what good are they going to do with their administration. So, but anyways, this is, I found what I was looking for, because this is something a lot of people, when you hear the topic of abortion and you hear it argued, you hear for the rare cases is why, like, we have to have it because of rape. We have to have it because of incest. We have to have it because, like me, either the baby isn't viable, not compatible with life, and the mom's life is at risk. That was actually my experience. My baby wasn't viable, and my life was at risk because of an abnormal pregnancy. Now, nothing happened to me, but they said I'm at risk for preterm labor, preeclampsia, most pregnancy complications, because things here weren't normal. And so they said I was at a higher risk of complication, life-threatening to myself, which we still chose to, continue life and had our son. But so I want to share with you really quickly the statistics, and this is at the Guttemacher Institute, which is at, good solid polling, black and white polling. Go to Guttemacher.org. And so I looked up reasons U.S. women have abortions. This is quantitative and qualitative perspectives. So those are big words to say that these are the hard facts from medical reports, okay? So it says that the reason most frequently cited, that were frequently cited, were that women who were having a child that would interfere with their education, their work, or ability to care for dependents, their other children, or those who depended on them. That was 74% of the reason why women don't have a baby and have an abortion. So not because of these rare cases or extreme cases. 74% of U.S. women have an abortion because it gets in the way with their life. It gets in the way of work, it says, their ability to care for dependents, and their education.
And 70% of women who are raped don't have an abortion. Because 70% of them don't report that they've been raped. Whether they keep the baby and raise them themselves, statistically, I couldn't find anything. But what a drastic change.
Yeah.
The one that, like you said, those are the reasons why you should have an abortion is because you were raped.
Mm-hmm.
And 74%, I'm sure, are young girls who are being sex trafficked. The abortion laws that they want to pass just keep those sex traffickers coming in. Young girls not having to tell their parents that they are having an abortion. People just dropping kids off and saying, go have an abortion. They come right back out and go right back, unfortunately, into the field for them to continue to be abused.
It's such a staggering stat, because they like to say, oh, raped women are the reason why you have to have this, and yet the mass majority of raped women have their baby, keep their baby and have it,
And I think because as one who was raped, I know what it's like to be the victim. I didn't ask for my situation to happen.
Right.
And when I found out I was pregnant, I automatically knew that it wasn't the baby's fault.
Right.
Yeah. So
It's good. So of these women that were polled, or of these stats that medical reports that Gudemacher has here, so not only 74% of women, not only do those women, 74% of them had abortions based on, again, their life, it getting in the way of their life. Of those same women polled, they also stated that that they would not have another baby because they couldn't afford it. So it's a 73% of women. These same women polled. So it sounds like they could have checked the box on multiple reasons. So 74% of those women because it impacted their life, education, ability to care for dependents. 73% that they couldn't afford the next baby. And then it says, and then those who didn't want to be a single mother or were having relationship problems, therefore they couldn't have the baby. 48% said that's why they terminated. And nearly 4 in 10 women said that they had completed their childbearing stage, and almost 1/3 were not even ready to have a child that terminated their pregnancy. So either they were past the age to have a baby, which I'm 43. Billy knows that I would totally have another baby. Now, if my husband were out here, he's in the back, he would say, we're done. But I would have one at 43. I would literally be so stoked if that were the case. And then again, 1/3 weren't even ready to have a child. Could have been too young or whatever. Fewer than 1% said their parents or partners desire for them to have an abortion. So their parents forced them, or their partner forced them into having an abortion. That was their number one reason. And then younger women often reported that they were unprepared for the transition to motherhood, while older women regularly cited their responsibility to their dependents. But this doesn't even state, we know the minuscule percentage of those who either have an abortion because of rape or because unviable life's at risk, and then incest. So this stat doesn't even, none of these women, at least that were polled here, these stats that were polled here from Gudemacher, none of them state those, and then
amazing.
So of course we can completely speak to those issues, having walked through them, and we do not belittle those experiences at all, and know that it's scary. If a baby comes from experiencing something traumatic like rape, so we certainly don't want to sit here and diminish any of that. But that's the argument they use the most. We have to have this because of this, when we know the majority of women, that's not why they have them.
Yeah. And, we talk about, we had to have sex ed in school, but yet all these kids or young people are playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to end up with a pregnancy, then you don't be doing around the acts that's going to cause that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All of a sudden you just find a boyfriend one day and you're like, oh, I love them, and there's no real commitment.
Yeah.
Things happen. Not to judge anybody on any of that stuff, but if you're going to play with fire, take responsibility.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible, and sometimes pregnancy comes from that.
Yeah, you don't want to have a baby, you're not ready, you're too young or too old. Of course, not to sound harsh, don't be doing what brings a baby into the world. But like you said, there are actions you can take. We're not necessarily here to talk about birth control or anything, but there are things, you know what I mean. There are precautions, which none of them are 100% apart from abstinence. Sound like I'm back in high school talking about abstinence. But the other thing that it used to be, when we used to hear about abortion, now we're both in our 40s, it used to be considered, rare and safe and rare. Like, so that, again, only in the rare instances was abortion really necessary. And say it's a small child who is raped and gets pregnant, or again, anyone in rape, or if a mom's life's at risk and things like that. But now what is so heartbreaking is the demand, is abortion on demand, and something that we have had a hard time wrapping our minds around, and why it's important that you are aware. If you watched the DNC rally, when they were announcing who the candidates were, they literally had a bus outside that was to perform abortions, and I don't remember the number, 1,000, how many were performed over the course of the weekend of the...
Yeah, I gotta remember that. And not only that, but men too.
Vasectomies. Which I was a little more like, well, if they don't want kids, then okay, have a vasectomy. But exactly, like, how weird is that if that doesn't show you a mindset around a political group is to terminate life and then allow men to have a surgery done that doesn't create life. Like, I can't wrap my mind around that. Like an abortion on demand like that. And so we just want to clear the air. That's the whole point of this episode, is to clear the air that, we hear all the time that pro-life literally just means pro-birth. Like, just get sweet little Clayton here, who is such an example to making that choice and what results from it. You know what I mean? This precious life, right? But how because so much misinformation and lies are out there, and we just wanted to let you know that there's another side of the story, that there's resources, you are loved, and don't take what we say at face value. Please do your research. Please look for yourself. And because again, where we can speak from lived experience, that's why we care. Like, we care to tell you these things. We get nothing out of this. You know what I mean? We don't want your vote. You don't have to vote for us. We don't want your money. We just want you to know that we understand where you are, and there are resources available, whatever your unique situation. So,
that's 100%.
So, yeah. So that's all we got. If you guys have questions, I know a couple of you have hopped in and out of here. We'll upload this to YouTube. If you have questions, please don't ever hesitate to comment.
We want open conversation.
Yeah.
If we're already divided, right? There's no question about that. But starting now, we can start the conversation now.
Absolutely.
We can have a good back and forth and still love each other.
100%. And you don't have to think like we think or believe like we believe. That's where I was going. I just derailed there for a second. But how, we were starting to say pro-life. People think it's pro-birth. We are so much more than just the baby. Now, we are all about the babies. We love babies. And that is one of the perks of the end goal. But we love you moms. We love you dads. We love you grandmas and grandpas of moms and dads in unplanned pregnancies. Billy is one, as Queenie here. Yeah, I don't have any grandbabies yet. In due time with our children. But you're not alone, and you don't have to think or believe like us. We just want you to know you can reach out. And we're not militant, and we're not just get to birth and then you're gone. No, we want to help you with resources, when the baby's born, when your baby's 1 year old, when, your kid's ready to start school. Again, because there are resources out there. Don't let anyone tell you that you're a burden on society or you're a burden on the system. That's not true at all. And more than that, the stat I always like to share is, because it was not my place to say this testimony, so I'll stop myself. But I personally know a testimony of somebody who gave their baby up in high school, and that there's literally 2 million couples actually in the U.S. right now waiting to adopt. So don't think that there's not somebody, if you're someone who you really can't take your baby. We understand that. There are those who are praying about and waiting for a baby to be available, who would love to love on your child and take your child in. So, anyways, we need to have people on who can share those types of stories. So it's not my story to tell. It's the only reason why I stopped talking. But because we have amazing women within our circle that would love to come on and share their testimony. And speaks very specifically to adoption and not just rape or unviable baby, but not being able to have children and then having had an abortion. So, so we love you.
Yeah,
Anything
we do.
else you want to say in closing?
No, thank you guys for joining us, and we can't wait to see what happens for episode number 4.
All right, and don't forget to vote.
Yes.
Again, doesn't matter. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, even though I know we're pro-Trump personally. But please just get out and vote. That's all that matters. That is your right? If you're women, we fought for that right and that freedom. So get out there, do your civic duty, and pray about it. Reach out to us. We're here. We love you. And like Billy said, we'll see you on the next episode. All right, guys. Love ya.
Bye.
Bye.